The gossip is, you're laughing, you know what's coming, that you're only staying in this administration to get tax cuts done. Is that accurate?
Look, tax cuts are really important to me. I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We haven't done tax cuts in 31 years. So to be part of an administration that gets something done that hasn't been done for 31 years is enormously challenging, enormously interesting to me. So yes, I'm very excited about being part of that team that is able to work on something that's that important, and I think that important to our economy and that important to the citizens of this country.
There it is, Gary Cohn. A lot of people talking about him these days, the president's chief economic advisor, talking there to Stewart about his own future. But before we talk about that, to his present and the debate we're having over tax reform. First, some politics. There's a new survey out. It shows the idea of tax reform has, quote, broad support from 10 key states. You're looking at them on the map. States President Trump won last year, but where there's a Democratic senator up for re-election next year. That could be very important. We have a very smart panel to talk about all this tonight. Deroy Murdock is here in the New York studio with me, Fox News contributor and a contributing editor to the National Review. Richard Goodstein is with us, a Democratic strategist, and David McIntosh is as well, president of the Club for Growth. Welcome to you all. Deroy, let me start with you here in the studio on this Gary Cohn question before we move to the merits of tax reform. I don't want to fill in too much, but that sounds like a guy to me that might be on his way out if this gets done. That's what Stewart was getting out of the question. What do you think?
I'm not sure what Gary Cohn's plans are after this, but he's got a great challenge, and so does President Trump, and so does everybody in this country, which is to get a growth-oriented tax system in place, simplify it, get rates down, and I'm most strongly rooting for a 15% corporate tax, which would make America the leader in corporate taxation. I think the economy would boom like it boomed in the 1980s, and I hope that comes to pass.
Well, that might be the best bet, David McIntosh, in terms of getting the bang for the buck, right? I don't know if they'll get to 15%. Some seem skeptical of that, but Deroy is right, because a tax cut for the quote-unquote rich, I know Richard's going to want to talk about this in a second, but to me, from hearing Gary Cohn and others, that seems less likely, where you might see a little bit for the middle class on individual rates, but this corporate, in terms of the macro economy, you think that helps, and how low can they get it?
I think they can get it to 15%. Okay. It'll help enormously create jobs for the middle class. You also need a tax cut for small businesses that run it on their individual tax forms. So you've got to cut taxes for individuals as well. The fact
even
is,
the top bracket?
Sure, they're the ones that pay most of the taxes, and what we want them to do is use that money to invest in creating new jobs. So you've got to let them pay less taxes to do that. I think they've got a lot of flexibility on where they go with the rates, but I hope the White House doesn't fall into the Democratic strategy of this politics of envy. You know, don't help the rich do anything or else it's going to hurt you politically. Donald Trump's proven that doesn't work. He's a billionaire. His voters were not billionaires, and they loved him. So I think they should reject that argument and cut taxes for everyone.
That tees you up quite nicely, Richard, I think. What do we see here, do you think?
Trump's got a big problem. He's got the same problem here that he had with his health care plan, which had 17% support, notwithstanding the poll that you supported. The fact is the public broadly opposes tax cuts for the rich and tax cuts for corporations. Just look at the initial Trump proposal from a few months ago. The upper 1% would get a $318,000 tax cut, the middle class $1,100. And he might talk about middle-class tax cuts till the cows come home.
Right.
But he's got a credibility problem, Connell.
Well, there is a lot of support for that, by the way. In those states he won, and those are key states in the midterms, too. There's a lot of political support, Richard, to be fair.
Well, I'm just saying the problem is that nobody believes him between crowd sizes and Obama's birth certificate. I mean, he's got such a credibility problem. People will look at the numbers, and we know historically, and David McIntosh probably knows this as well as anybody, if you don't pair tax cuts with spending cuts, you drive up inflation, you drive up interest rates, you reduce national savings.
Well, David's going to tell you get growth, and you pay for it, right, David? It's got to be real quick here, because I got to get back to Texas.
All of those folks in those states, and we're helping candidates, and 3 of them, probably going to add 2 more. the thing that lets them win on the tax cut issue is it'll create jobs. And that's what the Trump tax cut plan does. It creates middle-class jobs, makes America great again because it puts the economy back to work.
I'll not cheat you either, Deroy. Get a word in.
Yeah, I agree with what David said. I'd call this a job creators tax cut, and the 15% corporate tax rate is a job creators tax rate. And that's what President Trump ought to push, and that's what
only if you give money to the middle class to create demand.
That's fine. I'm absolutely for a middle class tax cut.
Increase demand.
But we need a job creators tax cut of 15% corporate tax rate. The economy will boom, and everyone will be happy about that.